Every man has heard it from women he's dated, from women he's friends with, from the internet, from advice columns, from every corner of the conversation about attraction. Be confident. That's the answer. That's what women want. Be confident, and everything else falls into place. And most men hear that and nod along because it sounds right. It sounds like advice. And then they go out into the world and try to be confident, and it doesn't work the way it was supposed to, because what they did with that advice, what almost every man does with that advice, is try to produce the appearance of confidence. The louder voice, the straighter posture they have to remind themselves to hold, the slower reply time that's calculated rather than natural, the practiced unbothered expression they put on when they're actually bothered, the performance of a quality they were told to have without anyone ever explaining what that quality actually is or where it actually comes from. And the performance doesn't work. Not for long, not in the ways that matter, because she's not asking for the performance. She never was. And understanding what she's actually asking for, what that word actually means when a woman, uses it in the context of what she wants from a man, is one of the most clarifying things you can do for yourself, not just for attraction, for your entire life. So let me tell you what she actually means. And I want to go slowly here because it's worth getting right. When a woman says she wants a confident man, the first thing she does not mean is a man who thinks highly of himself. That's arrogance, and arrogance is not attractive to anyone who has any self-respect of their own. Arrogance is actually just insecurity with a louder voice. The man who needs to establish his dominance in every room, who interrupts, who one-ups, who turns every conversation back toward himself, who needs to be seen as the most impressive person present, that man is deeply insecure. His behavior is driven by the same wound as the most obviously nervous man in the room. He just covers it differently, and she can feel the wound underneath the bravado. She always can, because wounds have a feeling to them regardless of what you drape over them. And what she feels when she's near that man is not safety. It's the exhausting work of managing someone's fragile ego. And that is the last thing she wants. What she also does not mean is a man who is fearless. Fearlessness is not confidence. Fearlessness in a man often reads as recklessness, as someone who doesn't fully grasp what's at stake. The man who never feels nervous, who never feels the weight of a moment, who moves through every situation without any internal friction. That man is either lying about his inner experience, or he hasn't built enough of a life yet to have anything worth being afraid of losing. Neither of those is what she means when she says she wants confidence. And she definitely does not mean a man who has everything figured out, the man with the perfect career trajectory and the spotless apartment and the flawless social calibration, who has systematically eliminated every rough edge because rough edges feel like weakness. That man is often one of the least confident people in the room, because all of that polish is frequently armor, carefully constructed distance between the world and the part of him that still isn't sure he's enough. And she can feel the armor. And armor, no matter how well crafted, keeps connection out just as effectively as it keeps vulnerability in. She doesn't want the armor. She wants what's underneath it. And a man who has never learned to take the armor off has nothing real to offer her. So what does she actually mean? What is the thing she is reaching for with that word that keeps getting used, but never fully explained? She means a man who has a settled relationship with himself. That's it. That's the whole thing. A man who has looked at who he is, including the parts that aren't perfect, including the things he's still working on, including the failures and the awkward moments and the areas where he doesn't yet have it figured out, and has decided that all of that is workable, that all of that is something he can operate from without shame, without constant apology, without needing to hide it or compensate for it or hope she never notices it. A man who is at home inside himself in a way that doesn't require external validation to maintain. That settledness, that quiet ease of a man who is not at war with his own existence is what she is pointing at when she uses that word. And it is something you can feel from across a room before anyone has said anything. It is something that has nothing to do with how you look or what you earn or how smooth your conversation is. It is a quality of presence, a quality of being, and it is built, not performed, and it is built in a very specific way that most men never get told about. Here's what I mean by a settled relationship with yourself. Think about the people in your life you feel most comfortable around, the ones where there's no performance happening, no managing of impressions, no subtle competition, just ease, just the feeling of being near someone who is simply who they are without apology or agenda. That feeling of ease doesn't come from those people having perfect lives. It comes from them being genuinely okay with the lives they have, from them not needing your reaction to feel okay about themselves, from them not being in the middle of a silent audition every time they walk into a room. And what they have, that ease, that settledness, is what she means when she says confidence. She means the feeling of being near someone who doesn't need anything from the interaction to feel okay, who is genuinely comfortable in their own skin, not because everything is perfect, but because they've made peace with everything that isn't. Now, here's where it gets important. That quality cannot be faked, but it absolutely can be built. And it's built through a process that most men find unsatisfying because it doesn't produce results in the timeline they're hoping for. It's built through choosing yourself consistently over time, through doing the things you say you're going to do, even when no one is watching and you could easily not do them, through going after the things that actually matter to you rather than waiting for permission or ideal conditions, through facing the discomfort you've been avoiding and finding out through actual experience rather than theory that you can handle more than you thought, through developing genuine skills and things you actually care about so that your sense of who you are has real substance to it rather than being a reflection of how other people respond to you on any given day. Every man who has that settled quality got there the same way, through time, through honesty, through a consistent practice of choosing his own standard when the easier thing was available, not dramatically, not heroically, just quietly, consistently, day after day, in the moments that didn't feel significant but were adding up to something. And what they were adding up to was a man who, when he walks into a room, doesn't need anything from the room, who is already somewhere before he arrives anywhere, who carries his own sense of worth as something internal and permanent rather than external and conditional. Let me tell you what that man actually looks like in a conversation with a woman he finds attractive, because this is where the theory meets the real world, and it's worth being specific. He's curious about her, genuinely curious, not performing curiosity because he's been told women like to be listened to, actually curious because he has enough of his own interior life that he's genuinely interested in the interior life of other people. His questions come from real interest rather than strategy. And she can feel the difference between someone asking because they're interested and someone asking because they're following a script. Real interest has a warmth to it, a forward-leaning quality that doesn't feel like pressure, a quality of attention that makes her feel genuinely seen rather than processed. He disagrees when he disagrees, naturally, without making it a moment, without the slight performance of a man who is very deliberately showing her that he has his own opinions, just casually, genuinely, from a place of being someone who has thought about things and arrived at actual positions and is comfortable holding them. And when she pushes back on one of those positions, he engages with her perspective honestly. He updates his thinking. If she makes a good point, he holds his ground. If he actually believes what he said, and both of those responses, the genuine update and the grounded disagreement, land the same way. They land as evidence of a man who is present with her rather than managing her, who is interested in the actual exchange rather than the outcome of the exchange. If he's comfortable with silence, not in a theatrical way, just in the natural way of a man who doesn't experience silence as something threatening that needs to be filled, who can sit in a quiet moment and actually be in it rather than running through a list of things to say next. And that comfort with silence is contagious. It makes her feel like she doesn't have to perform either. Like she can simply be there. And the relief of that, the simple relief of being near someone where neither person is performing, is something she will find herself wanting to come back to. He doesn't need her to validate him, not in the obvious ways, not in the subtle ways either. He doesn't fish for compliments. He doesn't ask questions designed to generate reassurance. He doesn't adjust his opinion of himself based on her level of warmth in any given moment. And because he doesn't need that validation from her, she doesn't feel like a vending machine. She doesn't feel like her job in this interaction is to keep him feeling okay about himself. She feels free, and freedom is one of the most attractive things a person can feel in the presence of another person, because genuine freedom, the freedom to simply be yourself without managing someone else's fragility, is extraordinarily rare. And here is the part of all of this that I think matters most. That man is not someone who was born a certain way and got lucky. He is not a type of person some men are and others aren't. He is a destination, one that any man can move toward with enough honesty about where he actually is right now and enough consistent effort in the direction of who he actually wants to become. The distance between where you are and where he is not talent. It's not genetics. It's not the circumstances you were born into. It's the accumulated weight of choices you can start making today, choices that don't look impressive to anyone watching, but that stack quietly and powerfully into a man that she recognizes the moment he walks into the room as something genuinely different from what she's been encountering. The settled man, the man who has made peace with himself, the man who doesn't need the room to respond in any particular way to feel okay about being in it. That is the confident man she's been talking about. That is the man she means, not the loudest, not the smoothest, not the most polished or the most impressive on paper, the most real, the most grounded, the most genuinely at home in himself. Be that, not for her, because a man who is genuinely at home in himself is the best possible version of what you could be in every area of your life. She's just one of the many things that becomes available to that man that wasn't available before. Build it honestly, build it slowly, build it through choices rather than through performance, and watch what happens when the confidence you've been told to project becomes something you simply are. I mean, if you want to understand how a man like that actually shows up in the first conversation, what it looks like and feels like when someone with that kind of presence meets a woman he's genuinely interested in, there's a video right here that gets into exactly that. Go watch it.